Tim Petrowich for Dateline Marion, and we're here for our weekly visit with Marion head football coach Kerry Martin. And the Wildcats' big winners last week, 55-2 over Mount Vernon. Coach, it was one of those games where I think you had to feel good about the fact you didn't have to worry in the last quarter. You know, you didn't have to put together a long drive, didn't have to make a key defensive stop because you were able to take control early.
Yeah, that was important, I think. And the fact that we got off to a fast start and we kind of got out on them. And, you know, I know they were dealing with an 0-4 record. And what you worry about as a coach when you're playing an 0-4 team is that they develop some confidence at some point in the game. And to get out early and get out on them early and you know, do what we did, I think really helped the whole game process, because I think we took a little bit out of them early with a couple of quick touchdowns, and so that kind of the game plan. Told the kids, let's get out, let's get on them early, and let's try to get out in front. And the defense just played so well those first few series to kind of take away some of the things they wanted to do, and I think those two things combined really helped set the tone for the rest of the night.
We had talked last week about the fact that they had been close and competitive in several of their games until late in the game. So, yeah, I think that was an important thing. And then you noticed as you jumped out early in the first quarter, they seemed to just kind of be deflated.
Yeah, you know, you and I had talked about the fact that they had been in so many games and they had scored a lot of points, and I think because of their point total, I think in some of the games, including the Althoff game where they scored over 40 points, but they had played a tough schedule, and they had scored points on about everybody they played. So I think that gave them some confidence that no matter what, they could be in almost any game because their offense could keep them close. And I think to get out and to stretch that lead early was important for us. And then I think just the way our defense played, the way our kids tackled and took away some things they wanted to do or things they had done well, I think really had a lot to do with it. But offensively, our guys just kept after them. You know, you worry about jumping out in a lead too early and then kind of pulling back, but our guys stayed on them. And most of all, you and I talked after the game, I was really proud of how our backup kids played in the second quarter and in the third and fourth shortened quarters, because they really came out and played hard, and I think played very well.
I want to talk about that a little bit because, you know, you had a 40-0 lead, I think, at the point where you pulled the starters on offense, at least the skill players on offense, and your reserve offense, your backup quarterback engineer Chase Isbell engineered an 80-yard drive at the end of the second quarter.
Yeah, you know, and that's a great example of a guy that stepped up when he got called and did a nice job. And Lucas Schramm was another one, and several young offensive linemen stepped up and played pretty well during that series. And Jonas McNeely, I think, was another young man that played pretty well during that. So we saw a lot of guys contribute. And then defensively, guys were defending their number ones who were still in the game and defended them pretty well in the second half, especially, and made some nice plays and some good tackles. And I just thought played at a high level. And, of course, when you haven't gotten into a lot of varsity games and some of your guys don't get to play JV ball anymore, it's nice to see them go in and perform at a high level against another team's number ones and number twos, because, you know, this is their opportunity.
Let's talk about your defense, and we've talked about them, and you know they've been put to the test several times, and they seem to be getting better and better. And you know now they're not inexperienced; they've got a half a year of experience, and I think that's starting to show because technically the defense pitched a shutout, the offense gave up the 2 points, so. You know, a really good effort by the defense.
It was a great game plan from day one. Coach Dunning and Coach Skeet and Coach Wimberly really put together a good game plan. I liked it the day I saw it originally was on last Sunday, the Sunday before, and then throughout the week of practice, I just think the kids just absolutely bought in and did their preparation so they could effectively run it. Look, I told you last week, people say you're playing an 0-4 team. Are you worried? I said, well, listen, I've shown what they can do offensively to our defensive kids, and our defensive kids were impressed by their quarterback and their top receiver and some of the things they had done in the early games. So it got their attention. So I think they really bought into the game plan. I think they executed it really well in practice all week. And boy, what a cool thing to coach, have a game plan, give it to the kids. They buy in, they take it out on Friday and execute it just like you envision it. And that's one of the great things that makes coaching so satisfying are the transfer of your plan to execution by the kids. And boy, just hats off to the defensive players and the defensive coaches because they just did an awesome job.
We touched on this a little bit a few minutes ago, but the fact you got so many kids in offensively, how important is that for later in the season when they may be pressed into action?
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, we got quality snaps in that ball game for a lot of guys that had been in between playing freshman, sophomore ball and playing varsity ball. You know, we need them as varsity backups so we don't let them play a lot in the lower level games. So this was their chance to play, and a lot of them haven't had a chance to get a lot of snaps. And so, yeah, it matters. I think every chance they get to get on the field and perform, and we tell the kids, the moment you take the field, you are now a starter at Marion High School. And if the varsity guys have got a lead and you go in and, whatever the situation, you go into play, you're now the starter at that position, so play like it. And I think that was maybe the best part of the game after we got that lead, was just sitting back and watching our younger kids or our backup kids just perform at a really good level.
First two plays of the game were handoffs to Drake, and both plays he picked up a first down. And, Drake's a good running back. We've talked about that, and he runs hard, and he does a lot of things, but I mentioned after the game, and not to take anything away from Drake, but I might have been able to get 100 yards last week because your offensive line had huge holes, and it wasn't just holes at the line of scrimmage, but whole blocks downfield, too, that allowed 10, 12, 14-yard runs.
Yeah, that's, I thought they had one of their best ball games. We spend a lot of time looking at our offensive output, Tim, and we try to gauge quality snaps. So if we have 75 snaps in a game offensively, how many were quality snaps? And our goal is always to have an increased number of quality snaps in a ball game. That's quality snaps can mean good calls by me, good execution by the kids, pass completion, a run of over 3 yards or so, whatever your quality measurement is. And the first 4 games of the year, we had those moments of not quality snaps, as you know. It could be for a series, it could be, whatever. So we really worked hard last week at trying to hammer away. We've got to get more quality snaps during the game and take that 75 snaps and get to 50, 65 snaps a game that are quality. And I think that was by far our best game as far as just execution, consistent execution throughout the game. And I think it begins with that offensive line. They had their best game up front, which then I think transfers to time for Lucas to throw it, for holes for Drake to run through. When Lucas has time, the receivers got time to get open, so it all works together. But it was probably our most consistent performance by far.
Time to turn our attention to Althoff, and it's a team that lost its first 3 games, and 2 of those 3 were against really good teams. One, the defending Class 4A state champion in Immaculate Conception, another one, a really good team in Mater Dei. They've won their last 2. And, they beat Mount Vernon by a touchdown. They had to rally. They beat Centralia last week. And you may say, well, those aren't really good teams they're playing. But anytime you win a football game, it gives you confidence.
They've won 2 in a row. And, I mean, they're sitting here right now saying, well, we're tied for the conference lead.
Yeah.
So in their mind, how you want to look at it. So I think we were a bit in the first few weeks. They've been a little inconsistent. I think when they're on, they're very good. But I'm sure Coach Turner would say, like we've been at times, when they're off, they're not so good. And so, everyone right now, week 6, is trying to find that consistency of those quality snaps that you want to put together. And I think the last couple of weeks, even though the opponents may not have been quite as good on record, I think they're putting together more quality snaps. And I think maybe they're kind of coming to a peak, maybe at a good time. But they've got some really, really good football players. I love their defensive line. They've got some good kids on offense. Again, it's Althoff, and they're going to battle us. They're going to be competitive, and they've got a 2-game winning streak, and we're tied for the conference right now. So it'll be a battle. I expect them to come in here and play us tough like they always do.
If you look at some numbers, they're a blend of passing and running, a little bit more running than passing. And if you compare them to Marion statistic-wise, I think a few more yards rushing than Marion, a few less yards passing, but still a good blend in their quarterback, who I think is a junior this year, played last year all year, so he's a second-year starter as well.
You know, and they're a team that I think has a mix of run and pass, like you said. I think that balance makes it more difficult to defend. They can throw it around, they can run the ball. Got a couple of really nice running backs, both decent-sized kids and with good speed. They've got some really good kids up front. Just like they do on defensive side, they've got some good offensive linemen as well, and they always put out good quality skilled kids that can catch the ball and run with it. So look, those first 3 ball games would have been tough for anybody, and Immaculate Conception is an outstanding team, and they ran into them. Vianney out of Missouri was a returning state champion over there, so they've had a really tough start to their schedule, but I think Coach Turner's got them playing better, of course, and you know, he'll have them ready.
One thing that's on the line, and you may say, well, we could qualify, we could not, but this will be a guarantee to stretch that streak to 15, and we haven't talked about the streak, but this is a chance to lock it in.
Yeah, well, it'd be nice to have that out of the way, certainly. We you know, feel like that's important. We don't want our kids to achieve that and then take a deep breath and think it's, well, we've done it, because there's a whole lot more we want to achieve than that. But it'd be nice to have that streak continued and have that out of the way. Pink Out is a big night for us because we feel like there's a little extra incentive, and we talk to the kids a lot about this during the week. Extra incentive to play in such a way as to honor the memory of the person on the back of that jersey, and so we're back home again, which, if nothing else, we love being home, and the Maniacs will be out in full force. Plus, we'll have our regular fans, and then we'll have the Pink Out fans who may not normally come, but may be coming because of who is represented on those jerseys. So there's a lot of things going on with this ball game, and I love the extra incentive it gives us, and I hope that it helps us maybe elevate again and play at another high level, because we need to continue that high level of play from here through the rest of the season, because we've still got tough ball games ahead, and of course we qualify this week or next week or whenever for the playoffs. If we do, it'll be playoff time before you and I know it.
Oh, I know.
So it's coming fast.
You mentioned Pink Out, and I wanted to get into that a little bit. It is the Pink Out game, and it's a game where we've talked about the fact that, you know, it puts a different perspective on football and a different way to look at the game. And I talked to Joni Manfredo earlier, who organizes the Pink Out, and one of the questions I asked her, and I want to ask you the same question, is when you see the name of a person, and the players wear jerseys with names of people who have battled cancer, have won a battle with cancer, who have lost a battle with cancer, or who are battling right now, but when you see a name of someone you know, and you've had family members whose names have been on those jerseys, what emotions go through you when you see that kid who's playing with that name on the jersey?
It is more moving than I would have ever imagined. When we sat down to plan this years ago, we actually just borrowed what SIU had done with Mike McElroy and Connor James and some others started that over at SIU, and we literally just said, let's do that at the high school level. So our Pink Out really came years ago from that idea. And you sit there and you think about, well, I'd put my dad's name on that jersey, or I'd put my grandparents' name, or whoever. And then when you see it in person, and you see your father's name on the back of the jersey, it had an effect on me I didn't anticipate. I thought it would, but not to the level that affected me. And so it brought up a lot of emotions, a lot of feelings about the pride I have in my father and the sacrifices he made for me, his personal battle with cancer, and how that was a gut-wrenching thing to go through. But yeah, it is emotional, and I think it's okay, because sometimes the game of football gets way too much importance, and we need to have some perspective. In this age of people critical of the way fans are and the way some behavior is on the field by players at different levels, and man, it's nice to play a game where you're reminded with every turn of that player's jersey to their back, and you see that name, that this is secondary to a whole lot of other things that are more important. And so the game has always been a nice perspective setter for me. I think it is for a lot of parents and a lot of fans who, when you see that ceremony at the end where the jerseys are turned over, the outcome of the game, whether win or lose, is second to what's taking place on that field. And I have a jersey I'm sponsoring this year. I had a childhood friend die of leukemia when I was in 8th grade. He was a baseball teammate of mine, what is going to be a future football teammate of mine, and his name is Philip Robertson, and we'll have one of our players wearing Philip's jersey. His death had a profound impact on me, as did his life as a young man, and it's going to be special to see his name on that field. A guy that I never had a chance to play ball with, except baseball, no football. He died before our freshman year, but just to be able to honor him and honor the memory that I have of him is pretty awesome. I've had both parents, my father-in-law's name on the back, and now I have a childhood friend who battled cancer. By the way, the cool story is the type of cancer Philip died from had a survival rate that was very, very low when he got it. And today, St. Jude's Hospital cures about 85% of those cancers today. So if Philip had that kind of cancer today diagnosed, St. Jude's could save him. So when you talk about cancer research and how far we've come, and especially childhood cancer, it's a cool thing to be able to take this money from this game and give it to some families that need it, and send it to some organizations that are fighting this battle, really fighting a battle to whip cancer. And in many ways, we haven't won yet, but I think in many cases we're winning.
I think one of the neatest things, you touched on it briefly, is that ceremony after the game.
Yeah.
And it's not because, the family gets that jersey with a name on it, which is really, that's really emotional for a lot of those family members. But just to see the players interact with those people that maybe they've never met before, but there's real, genuine interaction between the player and that family, who some of them are family members, that they sponsor, but others are people they've never met. But there's a genuine interaction and a genuine interest in what those families are going through.
Yeah, there is, and that's a cool interaction for our kids to have to turn that over, whether it's to their own family, like you said, or whether it's someone they don't know. That we tell our kids there's a story behind every jersey. There is a life, and there's memories, and there's happiness and joy and struggle, and so it isn't just a name. There is a story. That is, we call that there somebody's number one. You're wearing somebody's number one in their life. It's a husband, a wife, a grandparent, a child, an aunt or uncle, but somebody near and dear to somebody else. That name means so much to that family, and so you're wearing more than just a jersey. You're wearing a whole bunch of memories, and sometimes hopes and dreams and baggage and just laughter and tears, and so it's a big deal. And I think we want to keep it a big deal for our kids. We want them to play inspired. We want them to play in such a way as to honor the life of somebody's number one. And I think our kids have embraced that. But I'm like you. I love to see our kids take that nasty, sweaty jersey off with that name on the back and turn it over and see the family pull it out and look at the back of that jersey. That's a cool moment.
And the Wildcats are 7-1 in Pink House, I think. So,
is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
So we got a pretty good streak on that. So a good winning percentage. So we hope we can continue that. But we know we'll have a tough game. We know Althoff will come in here and play us hard. So we'd love to have everybody come out and support the Pink Out and support the Wildcats and make it a big night.
All right. That's Friday night. This Friday night. Marion and Althoff, wear your pink, come to the game, stay till the end, watch this ceremony, because that may be just as good as the game.
Amen.
All right, that's Marion head football coach Kerry Martin for Dateline Marion. I'm Tim Petrowich.